Spotify has taken down 113 of Joe Rogan's episodes on his podcast because there was a montage that went viral of him using the N word all
The hard
time.
R.
The hard R. N-I-double-J-R. You understand what I'm talking about? Shout out to Tigger. And it's so interesting. But before I say anything about it, T, do you have any more context that you want to give people?
Yeah, absolutely. So just like you said, that there already had been a campaign going on against Joe Rogan because of his COVID misinformation and him bringing on guests and saying definitely problematic and misinformative things. And then adding on top of that, that's when we found out that there were racial and racist remarks on his show. Just like you said, there was that compilation of him saying the hard R. Right. And he says that he released an apology and said that, it was taken out of context. But there is no context in which a white man should be using the hard R. Right. A white person, a non-black person should be using that word. And then there was another moment that was shared where he discussed going to a black theater. And that he wanted to go see Planet of the Apes, and the taxi driver or the Uber driver took him to a location where he wasn't familiar with, and he said he stepped out the car and he realized that he was in the Planet of the Apes. And it's like, there's no context needed for that. Like, that's racist. And I think that Spotify only removing 100-something episodes, and then them coming out and saying that, we'll match Joe Rogan's salary, so we were paying him $100 million. We will invest $100 million into licensing and developing and marketing of music and audio content for historical marginalized groups. I think that is such a whitewashing of things, right? Like, I think it's such a I think it's a cop-out. It's like how the NFL says, it's like, we'll donate $100 million to historically marginalized groups. We never know where that money goes, right? It's like, does that mean you're just gonna buy more of Lil Baby music? Like, I don't understand. What does that mean? What does that look like? Like, how is that helping the community, and how is that like readdressing some of the harm that was caused by the person that you are giving a platform to? Right. So those are my initial thoughts. What about you?
Well, no, I think that, what you said about Spotify is really spot on, because when you think about Joe Rogan, I don't think he can actually really be canceled because no matter what, he already has a platform. Yeah. He's already very famous. Absolutely. And there's going to be a lot of racist and anti-black people who are going to follow him, even if he like goes out and stands in the middle of the street and starts saying the stuff he was saying, right? But as a company, as an organization, you have a responsibility to say, we don't tolerate this on any level. A white man being a verbally racial terrorist is not acceptable, and we're going to show you that when you do this type of thing, especially on our platform, that it won't be tolerated, and there are significant punishments, right? Because I think the one of the Spotify execs said, we don't think silencing Joe Rogan is the answer. You don't have to silence someone, but you can disassociate yourself from someone. And because what happens is that a lot of people who were rocking with Spotify, whether they were subscribers or artists and creators who were signed onto the platform, they're exiting the platform because it's like you are the head of the snake, and you are what you're saying is that, hey, someone can use the N-word who is not black, and it can bother millions of people, and that's okay. We'll remove the episodes, right? But like, the Planet of the Apes thing, like, how do you...
Yeah, you can't justify that. And even on, like, a few seconds after saying it, he was like, yeah, that was kind of racist. But in his apology, he's like, no, that's not racist. And I think that we've talked about this before. I think people get a little too invested in what is racist and what is not. Right. And it's like, no, like, we need to show that, like, this is still a problem and you shouldn't be saying these things. And I think what you're pointing out is that there's a double standard, right? Like that with Whoopi Goldberg, she will get a 2-week suspension because she did not really understand, that she was uninformed on something. But she didn't go out of her way to say anything harmful or hurtful or make a joke, a racially insensitive joke. But Joe Rogan did, right? And it's like, there is no repercussions really for him. Spotify is going to rock with him because Spotify makes money off of him. Joe Rogan is the #1 podcast in the world. He brings in a bunch of money for Spotify because I found out that Spotify puts a $1 million, like to run an ad on Joe Rogan's podcast is $1 million. So it's like the money that they put into him, they're just trying to get back.
Right.
So that shows me that they're not looking to cancel Joe Rogan because they would lose money. And I just wish Spotify would come out and say, like, we doing what's best for our pockets. Like, if enough people leave Spotify and enough people start rocking with us, then we'll let them go. But they're only gonna do that if that happens. And it's like, I would have rather them just kind of come out and say that.
Exactly. And you know, when you were talking, what you made me realize too is that imagine if Whoopi Goldberg had 113 instances of her saying an offensive word. She wouldn't get past 3.
No,
she wouldn't
didn't
get
past 1.
Right. That's what I'm. So it's like. So my thing too is what also makes Spotify look bad is that someone had to make a montage. A montage had to go viral before you move 113 episodes. So for those of you who might not be familiar with how we've talked about this before, me and Tristan talk about trends and patterns, right? You do something once, you know, like Whoopi's never gonna say nothing about Jewish people again ever. I guarantee you that. But 113 times, the first time, okay, I was misinformed. Second time, all right, I just, you know, third time we all looking at you strange. But then 110 more times, 110 more times. But like as a white man in America, that's about as many tries as you get.
Yeah.
And you're still not necessarily being punished that much.
Nah.
So I think
You
this
just gotta apologize.
Yeah, it's like you get 113 tries if you're a white man in America. And I think we're seeing this in real life.
Yeah.
And like I said before, Spotify, yes, you're losing. Yes, you might be losing money if you disassociate in the short run. But imagine the repercussions of not disassociating from Joe Rogan in the long run. And you know, this is not the first time we've heard about, you know, issues with like content creators and Spotify. And so it's very unfortunate that it's going down like this. But yeah, I'm just like 113 times. And it's not, and like I said before, it's not like, you know, they had taken all 50 episodes and then added because they were like, oh, he was saying the N-word. It's like, no, a montage had to go viral before they even
addressed it. Otherwise, like, it was okay. And then they just let it ride. And I don't want y'all to get it misconstrued. Do I think that Joe Rogan is the white supremacist, or do I think that he's a bad person? Not particularly. Right. But I do think that he uses his platform and he allows people that do believe in white supremacy on his platform, and he doesn't check them. So while they're promoting these white supremacist beliefs, so there's an example of, I think his name is Charles Johnson, and he made a claim that black people have this inherent violent gene. And Joe Rogan sits there like, oh, is that right? Oh, I have to look into that, right? And it's like, that I think is problematic. And I think that more than anything, Joe Rogan is very similar to a lot of white men in society, right? That they can be racially insensitive and that they can afford to be. And I think him being that similar to them in that sense, like, that's why he is so popular. He can make these jokes that they say is just jokes. They can be uninformed and just kind of lackadaisical about these things. And I think that that's why people, white men specifically, and that's what makes Joe Rogan so popular. I think that's why he's so popular. And I think that deplatforming, I don't know if Joe Rogan can actually be deplatformed, but I do think that he needs to be held to that standard. He needs to be punished in some sense of the word, whether that be by Spotify. And that's kind of what we're talking about, because it's like he's built a presence so much because he was a UFC color commentator, because he was
Fear Factor host.
Yeah, Fear Factor host. So it's like he will be his own brand, but it's like until he knows that he can't do these things, he'll continue to do these things.
Right.
And there's no real repercussion other than saying like, oh gosh, golly, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And we're not playing by the same game.
Oh, not at all. And so it's unfortunate, but like, I don't know, it's very much expected. You know what I'm saying? I expect Spotify to be this mediocre, just like I expect Joe, like, maybe what they might do is try to have some type of social justice warrior come on the show and have the conversation and check Joe. But like, once again, when we talk about even a sincere apology, it's like Joe Rogan needs to realize that it's like you said, it's not about being racist or not racist. It's about, I am a white man. Racism is something I benefit from and something in this particular case that I actively participated in. And this is a lifelong journey for me to learn more and to do better, right? And if he would have talked about all the ways in which that word is hurtful, whether you know, you're a white person and you use it or a non-black person and you use it, like how you shouldn't want to say the fucking word, and like how you have to address your own need for power and control if you want to say the word so bad, even though you're not black, right? So like, if he would have given that type of thing, maybe it would have come off as more sincere. But the apology he gave was very typical of a mediocre white man, and so it's unfortunate, but also unfortunately, it's very much